Hi, I'm Jen. I am the founder and CEO of One Bold Step. Along with me today, you have Adam Clark, who is co-founder and president of the company. And then we have our HubSpot admins, our HubSpot experts, Mr. Steve Frizzy, who is a senior consultant with One Bold Step, and Rob, who serves as digital campaign manager, but also does a ton of HubSpot adminning. Adam and Rob just got back from Inbound, which is the annual HubSpot conference in Boston. So they are full of the latest ideas and advancements, and also have great insights into what HubSpot is going to be rolling out next as well. So if you feel like you've got a super hard question and you want to try to stump us, we would look forward to that and welcome the challenge.
Wow.
How about that?
Yeah, what?
How about that?
Calling them out.
I didn't know she was going to say that. That's not part of the agenda.
It's totally fair. So to give everybody a little bit of background, we started One Bold Step on this premise. We believe that everything can be more efficient, but especially sales and marketing processes. So stealing from the lean principle, lean manufacturing, and my own background in supply chain management, we want to create systems, order, and accountability for sales and marketing teams. Because that when we're doing that, our goal is always to generate more demand, increase sales, and at the end of the day, prove return on marketing investment. This used to drive me crazy when I served as VP of marketing in a number of organizations, that anytime that times got tough, the first thing to get axed was always the marketing budget. And so when we said One Bold Step was going to be a different kind of agency, we are here to prove that marketing is measurable, it is manageable, it is value, and there is a direct correlation to the amount of money that you spend on marketing to the amount of an increase in revenue that you see on the other side. It is not overhead. So with that, and in order to do that, we need really good systems. And in our case, and in the case of this webinar today, we're going to talk about one of our favorite systems, which is HubSpot, and how we prove how much marketing matters to the different organizations that we work for. Jen steps off soapbox now. All right.
Yeah. So we are going to cover a lot. We have a lot of questions that were that you added when you registered. So we'll get to those. But the three things we want to talk about today is lead source tracking, automated lead scoring, and then how to track campaigns to measure marketing influence revenue. So we'll go over those three bullet points today, kind of in depth. And if there are questions, feel free to ask them. So problem one, we hear this a bunch: deals are closing, but I don't know where they're coming from. I need to see what lead sources are bringing in the revenue. You see it all the time, whether you're on LinkedIn or have this conversation. The solution is lead source tracking. So we're going to go over a little bit in depth on how you can prove people are finding you. Steve.
Oops. So lead source is the place where the lead came from, and leads can come from paid search. They can come from organic search. You can pick up a lead at a trade show. They can get to you on social media. So the idea of lead source tracking is that you're going to log where that contact, where that person came to you originally. And the idea of logging that is that you're going to be able to then associate that that place with a deal in the long run. So the way to do that is you have to take some information that HubSpot has, and you have to create a custom property. And we create one called lead source. And I'll show you what they look like here. We're going to see what this does when I click on it. And here's what a lead source would look like inside of HubSpot. So some examples would be native, custom, organic search, referral, trade show, conference, prospecting. So we actually have to do this. This is not built into HubSpot. We create this manually as part of building out lead source tracking for you when we build these things. And go back to this. And then what we do is we build out workflows. Oops, sorry. Oop, there we go. We build out some workflows. And we take information that is inside of HubSpot that HubSpot is logging, and we move that information from places where HubSpot logs it into the lead source field. Now here's an example of it. This one's pretty easy. If the original source is organic search, then we mark the lead source organic search. So those are easy. Those are first level sources. So they seem like you're just logging the same thing. But when you go into secondary sources, like an integration or an import or offline, I don't see offline in here, some of the offline lead sources, then we have to drill down into detailed information inside of HubSpot and pull out all of those lead sources so that we can note where they came from. And then some of them are going to have to be manual, like trade show. If you import a list into HubSpot of your trade show follow-ups, you're going to have to manually set that as a lead source in HubSpot.
So
yeah, the nice thing about creating a custom property for lead sources is that you can bring in any custom lead sources that make sense for your business. So if you do a lot of trade shows, or if you've got any other kind of lead source that makes sense that you want to track, we can put that right into one source here within HubSpot.
And I would say really the goal is to have the minimum number of lead sources that give you all the information that you need. Too many lead sources ends up spreading the information out, and it's not really that useful. So we always try to get the minimum number of lead sources that give you a complete overview of all the places that your contacts can come from.
And sometimes you're wondering, well, why not just use the original source? And what we run into is a direct source or direct traffic inside HubSpot doesn't mean anything to leadership teams. And so you really want to break that apart and define where that came from a lead source perspective, if you can. You know, even calling it from a website or inbound perspective gives more description and helps marketing prove ROI when you actually use custom properties instead of just the ones that are automatically built as original source.
I do the same thing with referral. The referral lead source in HubSpot doesn't make a lot of sense because it doesn't mean a personal referral. It means a referral from a different website.
Good call out.
So the way to make sure that your lead sources are attached to your deals, which gives you that link from lead source through all the way to the revenue on the end, is to make sure that you have a contact and a company associated with every deal. So in this example, you can see the deal is Jefferson Fuentes new deal, and we've got one contact and one company associated with this deal. And since there will be a lead source that we'll talk about in a second on both the company and the contact object, we'll be able to take those lead sources and show what revenue, in this case, $82,000, came from those specific lead sources.
Steve, I'd like to just throw in here, in the past, I've had discussions with CEOs about which lead source gets the credit for the sale. Is it the very first one, or is it the last one? So if they came in some other way. And I just want to point out that with HubSpot, it's the first lead source, right? So the way that a contact initially reached out to your company is what sticks with them in this example. So just making sure that that's understood.
It's
I don't
also
think-
nice
Yeah.
to look at that attribution to see how many things this person had to interact with to actually, maybe create a deal or for that deal to close. So I know a lot of us hate to spend money on Google ads and already have that lead, but it is a way that they came back, they hit it, it was easy for them to get back in, and you can see all of that tracking from an attribution standpoint.
So the first lead source will get credit for the return on marketing investment from a budget perspective. But in reality, it's every single touch point that you can see in the attribution reports that also influenced the closing of that deal. But you have to select one, I guess is my point there. And first seems to be the easiest default for most executives to understand.
Yeah.
So we have a couple examples from a marketing dashboard perspective, right, Steve?
Yeah. So you want to set up cross-object reporting so that you can see where the money is coming from. So let me bring up that report. And here you've got closed won sales by lead source. So across the bottom of this report, hopefully you can see it says direct traffic, email marketing, import, integration, organic search. So across the bottom here on the x-axis, we have all the lead sources. And then you can see for each lead source, we have the amount of revenue that was brought in from that lead source. So what's interesting, what you're learning from these deals is you can see paid social brought in $68,000, paid search brought in $352,000. So as I'm looking at the results of my spends on paid search and paid social, I'm seeing that I'm getting a lot more revenue on paid search than I am on paid social. So I might want to adjust my spend and move some of my paid social over to paid search. I may just want to increase my paid search spend.
If you end up with a column here in this report that says no value, what does that mean, Steve? Because that's my tip off always.
Right. If you happen to see in your reports on lead sources something that says no value, it means that your deal is missing either a company or a contact associated with your deal. It's important that, as we said before, that every deal needs a contact and a company associated with it. That's how you pull through those lead sources and get them associated with your deals. If your salespeople are not associating company and contact with deals, then you're not able to generate that information, and you're going to see no value on your reports. You're going to have a column that says no value.
Yeah, I can't tell you how much pain and anguish no value has caused me personally in the past.
It's true.
And so
I guess a question came up. Greg asked, where is lead source in HubSpot? And I guess we didn't touch on that very quickly. That's a custom property that we create. It's actually not a default property that HubSpot provides.
And an easy way to create that, obviously creating that property, but getting the lead sources that you think you want to track from a marketing and sales perspective, having the team weigh into those lead sources, put them in a spreadsheet before you actually make the property, have everybody say, yes, this is where it fits. I will also throw out that if you want more description to lead source, sometimes we add what's called a lead source description that will sit directly under the field, which, for example, if you went to a trade show, maybe it was this trade show in 2022, and you could be more descriptive and have more detail as the lead source description as well. So if you want to track it further, you can.
And we build out lead source description logic along with the workflows when we do HubSpot implementations.
Correct.
It's not automatically built into HubSpot.
Catherine just wants a reminder on the difference between lead source and original source one more time here, because that is confusing.
So original source is built into HubSpot. So HubSpot does track the first lead source on a contact, and it does a fairly good job of capturing that data, but it doesn't normalize that data, and it captures it at multiple levels. There's 3 different levels that it's capturing it. There's original source level 1, and original source level 2. And you have to drill down into that to find out all the information that you need. So part of what we do when we build out lead source logic for our client is we normalize all of that, and we create a separate field called lead source, which is a custom field. And then we pick and choose where we're going to move the data from the original source data, which is built into HubSpot, into the lead source data, so we can make it pretty and easy to understand.
We give them better names than HubSpot does, I think, if you're in the marketing department.
All that, align with
Referrals?
your business.
Yeah, what does that mean? So that's why we do it.
One of the other things to note is the difference between lead sources on contacts and lead sources on companies. So we build out both a lead source on a contact and a lead source on a company. And when building out the lead source on a company, we make that the first contact's lead source. So what we're logging is the first person that we met from that company, their lead source becomes the company's lead source. And then as you meet more people from that company, each one of those people has a different lead source, but the primary, the first person you met, that lead source is logged as the company's lead source.
Good call out. I'm going to keep us moving just so we can get through our 3 topics and get some questions. So another one is we have all this marketing content, but our sales team doesn't know which prospects are warm and which ones are cold. How do I figure out who sales should reach out to? And so we're going to talk a little bit about automated lead scoring. So this right now is, how HubSpot dictates the lifecycle stage. So you can see from awareness, consideration, decision really falls in lead. There's, visit, which could be a subscriber, lead, marketing qualified, sales qualified, opportunity, and then a customer. HubSpot also has an evangelist that lists there, but it's not listed here. But this is their funnel, so you can actually segment and actually communicate a little differently based on whether somebody's a lead or a marketing qualified lead or a sales qualified lead, or maybe they're in your funnel with a deal, which is called opportunity. And so you can segment this a little bit more. But let's talk about how we set up lead scoring. So the goal is to automatically have people go through this life cycle stage, and based on scores and the weight of what they're doing and who they are. And we're going to walk through some examples of that. And then when it gets to an SQL stage, a notification should probably be sent to your sales team to say, hey, this is a warm lead. You need to follow up with them. So there's a couple different approaches to this, and Steve's going to kind of walk through the different approaches to lead scoring.
So lead scoring, again, is something that's not built into HubSpot. It's something that we build out when we implement HubSpot for our client. And there's 3 different basic kinds. One is activity or engagement based lead scoring. And that is lead scoring where you're tracking the types of things that the contact is doing with your content. So for example, we'll look at some lead scoring inside of HubSpot. And here you can see if they filled out a contact us form, they earn 50 points. And if they opted in for some marketing information, they get 10 points. And if they clicked on an email, they get 2 points. And so on. And you can have more and more. And number of sessions, they earn some points. Number of page views, they earn a point. And all types of engagement, from reading blogs, filling out forms, opening emails, clicking on emails, downloading assets, all that activity can be scored, and they continue to earn points until they reach an MQL or an SQL, at which point you can notify different people in your organization, and they can respond to those marketing qualified leads or sales qualified leads.
And you can, just to call out, you can give positive attributes for that, but you can also give negative. So for example, if you have a bunch of leads coming in and they're giving Gmail addresses or AOL addresses, well, you can mark those actually negative points, so they don't get in front of the sales team unless they do more things and qualify themselves.
Fit-based scoring is when you're looking at more like an ideal customer profile. So you're looking at maybe revenue for the associated company, the number of employees, the location of the home office, the job title of the contact. Those type of things will define the fit. And you can earn points for fit just like you can earn points for activity. And you earn points the same way, the score goes up. And again, once you reach a certain level, you define in the system that an MQL is a certain number of points and SQL is a certain number of points. And then you get into this, which is a little mind-blowing at first, but this is a combination of both fit and engagement. And this is for a company that has a really good idea of who their customer is and also wants to make sure that they're scoring the engagement of their customer. And so this is a combination approach where the contact earns points for both fit and engagement, and then we combine those. So in this example, if they had earned a score of 55 for fit, they would be a B. And if they earned a score of 85 for engagement, they would be a 1. And so we look over at the rating, and B1 would make them an SQL. They are a pretty good fit and very high engagement, so we make them SQL. Whereas if they were a 29 D and a 25 for engagement 3, well, a D3 is not really a very good fit at all. And even though they're a little bit engaged, they're not really worth us spending much time with. So the combined approach gives you both fit and engagement as a scoring mechanism.
Steve, how would you define fit?
It's really driven off the ideal customer profile.
Okay, so
Industry is a big one, Adam. So if it's like in a targeted SIC code and, it's the right size company, and you've got, one of these titles, or, a good example is they've got IT in their title somewhere, and we're trying to target IT individuals. So anything that's more in the firmographic information of a company is typically associated with fit. And I wanted to add too that this is not a set it and forget it. We set these up working with sales teams, and then we come to an agreement and we launch it. And then we get one of two arguments. We're not getting enough leads. Okay, well, maybe we need to lighten up the scoring a little bit here so more flow through, or we're getting too many leads and they're not qualified. Okay, we need to dial it back. So it's something where you can start with something that makes sense, you think, but it does typically need to be adjusted, maybe at least on a quarterly or half year basis.
So the other piece I just want to call out really fast is have your sales team and even sometimes marketing teams turn on notifications. So you do get those alerts. I don't know how many times somebody sets this up and they don't have their notifications turned on. So they're not getting the alerts when we actually tell them somebody's a hot lead. So make sure you actually have those notifications turned on and your team has those notifications turned on in settings. So you're not missing all the warm or hot leads that marketing's passing to you. Okay, so we talked about
question, Adam, about from Kate. Do you track prospect activities by linking HubSpot to your website and having their contact to HubSpot? And I was just typing, yes, absolutely. We put those tracking pixels all over the website.
Yes, good question. So next problem. So we're spending time and money on newsletters and blogs and emails. Insert anything you're doing from a marketing perspective, but are they making an impact? How do I know what's affecting the bottom line? And that is campaign tracking inside HubSpot. So from a campaign perspective, we think of campaign as a bucket of you can keep track, and actually HubSpot's done a better job in the last year of making sure that all kinds of assets, even ads in there can be in there now, forms, your landing pages, your static lists can be a part of this now. Blog posts can be tied together, emails, call to actions. You can wrap up all of your marketing assets underneath a campaign to then prove that you've influenced contacts. And Steve, jump one more, I think. And what you get from here is when you wrap all of these underneath a campaign, you can start getting views, but you can also see who was created new, or who you influenced that may be already in your funnel, which I think is a really important piece from a marketing perspective, because those people might be in your funnel, but marketing's job is to communicate to them and move them into that opportunity or to get that close one deal. So you can actually see that visibility here. Rob, you're gonna jump into a little bit of reporting, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And just a note on that, campaigns are a great way of bringing a bunch of different lead sources together under one reporting umbrella. So if you go back up one, see real quick, you can see there that like email marketing, paid search, organic social. You can bring all of those into one campaign report so that you can see exactly what your campaign is generating.
You can do this for outside advertisements as well. So you can create tracking URLs and tie those directly to a campaign. So for example, we've got clients that are doing PR. We'll make sure those links that are going back to the website are all tagged to a campaign. So you know people are reading the energy that you're spending on writing this PR and making an announcement, that people are getting back to your site and triggering underneath this campaign. So it's a good way to use tracking URLs to tie it all together as well.
Oh yeah. And another aspect of campaign reporting is that when a deal closes, that's connected with a contact that's interacted with something in your campaign, HubSpot will track that closed won revenue and put that right on the campaign reporting, so you can see exactly what your assets have influenced when it comes to closed won deals.
And don't be afraid to just tag things, start getting that visibility for your marketing campaigns all tied together. It doesn't have to be perfect. As long as you're tagging things, you should have visibility to what's going on and be able to change it and make adjustments to it based on what leadership wants to see, what marketing wants to see, what sales wants to see from a campaign perspective. So don't be afraid to just try it and get the hang of it and start tagging things and get into that process, because it will really benefit the whole team.
One of my favorite ones, I think, is for the CEO who goes, "Why are we blogging? Nobody's reading our blogs." Create a simple campaign called blogs, and then make sure that each blog that you write is tagged to that. And then each social post that you do promoting the blogs is tagged to that. And it's amazing how many people who eventually buy something have interacted with those blogs. And then all of a sudden, when they ask that question, you can go, because it influenced $250,000 worth of revenue. We're not going to say that the blog generated that lead, but we can show you that it influenced it because we know customers are reading them.
Yep, it's all about measuring.
Blog's just one of my favorite examples.
Yep, exactly. So it's all about measuring what had an effect at what point in the customer journey.
So just to recap before we get into the other questions, and we'll have about a half hour to go over the questions that you asked, but lead source tracking, make sure you set up those, and automate your lead sources, automate lead scoring. And so you can actually help that contact with the funnel journey that they're going through, and then start tagging things and start tracking your campaigns overall, so you have visibility to those marketing dollars. So questions.
So what we like to do in this format is to try to only give you about 20 minutes of education or information, because it gets kind of boring when we're just speaking at you and confusing. And so we collected questions prior to coming into this, and we're going to address those first. But this is the opportunity where you can get free advice. Type your questions into the chat window, or raise your hand and we can get to you and you can ask it if it's too complex. So while you're thinking about those, we'll jump into this first question. You can scroll.
And this is where you try to stump Rob and I, right?
Yeah, this is it right here. Yes. How can I possibly show a return on marketing investment when deals are disconnected from HubSpot marketing? So my sales team is not using HubSpot to put deals in the system.
First, we recommend that you either integrate them and try to get those deals to be inside HubSpot. But if that's not possible, Steve, you want to give a scenario on how you'd measure that?
Yeah, because it certainly might be the situation that your CRM is a legacy CRM that's tied into your ERP, and you're just not going to be able to connect it to HubSpot. We have a couple customers that are in that situation. And so the question is, well, you're getting lead sources. What are you tying your lead sources to if you're not going to be able to tie them to revenue deals? And you can tie them to lots of things. You can show the number of contacts that are coming from lead sources, and you can show the number of NQLs and SQLs that you're generating from different lead sources. And so you're not able to show the return in the form of financial return in dollars or the way it's normally shown, but you can show number of contacts collected, companies added to the database, NQLs, SQLs, which are impacts that marketing is having on the company.
And sometimes an integration, sometimes when you kick off with HubSpot, and maybe that's not in the plan to start. So what you should probably do, and if you have an IT team, maybe they can help you with this, is move some of those deal revenue numbers into either at a company or contact level on that field, so you can report on the close won deals or the revenue created. And so you can hopefully, depending on ERP or the CRM you're using, to move that data from the deal or opportunity into a contact, into a company record, so you can at least report on that success. We've seen that done in the past as well.
Can I go really low tech for a moment?
Yeah.
My favorite is always just to sit in on the weekly sales meeting and ask them, what about this lead? What'd you do with that lead? And how about that lead? Because it just draws attention to the work that you've done and the leads that you've created. Kelly asked a quick question. Are campaigns built into HubSpot by you, or am I able to add this manually?
So the campaign tool is in there, but what you're going to want to do is put your campaigns into the campaign tool. So and actually call them and describe them, give them titles and budgets and description of them. You can put those all into the system.
And
there's
of
quite
course,
a bit of
manually adding assets as well.
Yeah.
You can either do that from the campaign screen or from the individual ads, like the blog. There's usually a way to add stuff to campaigns within the settings.
And it looks like Danielle put a link in there to the knowledge base on that. So that's great. Moving right along, guys, feel free to use that chat window. If you are the only person at a small association who coordinates all the marketing efforts, is there a better way to streamline digital marketing and free up time for other projects? I think what we're looking for here is, I'm not sure this person is fully on HubSpot yet. So I'm kind of looking at maybe it's starting with like a HubSpot starter, or do you guys have ideas if they're already on HubSpot, what they could do that would just get the quickest bang for their buck in terms of automation?
Yeah, I would say looking at, if you have Marketing Hub, our marketing professional, then you're looking at what workflows you can create, what automations you can create, and asking the team, or looking at what you do on a day-to-day basis that that can be automated so you can pick up other tasks. I think whether or not you work for a nonprofit or a small marketing team or any marketing team, you wear many hats. And so asking the question of what can I automate with my job, and maybe I don't have to send that email every month. I can automate it or create a drip campaign. You just have to think about it that way, of automate as much as you can.
I think the dashboards are also something that's really good in any version of HubSpot, where if you're getting asked for the same metrics or same reports, make a dashboard. It's pretty easy to take any combination of reports and pull them together into a specific view.
Even, HubSpot's just added, even in the starter version, basic workflows from forms. So you can thank somebody for, you can have a simple email cadence that comes right directly from the form fills now. And so even HubSpot knows, even at a starter level, they're trying to take the basic things that you should be doing with every contact that fills out a form, is thanking them, creating that, and actually having a process for that right there.
Next
Hopefully
question.
that covers that one. Please explain the phases of the sales journey through HubSpot and the names and tags associated with each step. explain what lifestyle change and a deal activity mean. I think, Adam, you covered that a little bit on the slide that had the picture of the funnel. But it goes back to early marketing education. If you've gotten a degree in marketing, my power just flashed. If you went to school for education, they had all kinds of funnels. You know, it was like somebody's unaware, now they're aware, now they're interested, then they're deciding, you know, and then they're choosing, and then, you know, they're finally buying from you or not. And so what that funnel is that Adam showed earlier is HubSpot's interpretation or update of that in a very quantifiable way, so that as people become more qualified, you can speak to them in a different sense. But we do throw out those acronyms pretty regularly. So I don't know if one of our HubSpot experts here wants to start maybe with subscriber and work down to evangelist real quick.
Sure. Subscriber is usually reserved for people that are subscribing to the blog, and it's really a legacy level that we don't use very often. Then we go to lead, and lead is pretty much anybody in the system, usually means prospect. After a lead, you get marketing qualified lead. So they've done at least enough interaction or a good fit that they're worth looking into a little bit more, giving a little bit more attention. After marketing qualified lead comes sales qualified lead. When they're sales qualified, they've met some group of attributes that it's worth the sales team giving them a call. After sales gets a hold of them, hopefully they turn it into a deal. When a deal gets created, HubSpot automatically makes them an opportunity. And when that opportunity goes closed won, HubSpot automatically makes them a customer.
And then there's the evangelist, which we tend to reserve for, gosh, third-party endorsers, partners, sometimes media. It's really just kind of a catch-all on our end, but I don't know if, Adam, you've seen anything else with it?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it. I think of life cycle stage as your contact journey until they become qualified, and then you have your deal activity. So once a qualified lead's been defined, you create a deal, and now you work them through that deal funnel. And so you have a contact journey and then a deal journey. So the other nice thing to call out, I'm told we're seeing this, but it's in beta right now, where you'll be able to actually change lifecycle stage, which has always been a locked property inside HubSpot, which a lot of people have complained about. And so it's in beta right now, where you'll actually be able to change lifecycle stage, so it actually matches your own funnel and makes more sense to a team, which is very, very exciting. So for those who have been in HubSpot for a long time, it's definitely needed.
I'm not seeing anybody else with questions in the chat window nor raising their hand. So we'll go on to the next one. What in the world is the benefit of having both marketing professional and sales professional? Two different hubs.
So I get asked this question a lot, usually by people that have a separate CRM from HubSpot. And the question is, I'm using marketing professional. What's the benefit of me adding sales pro? And the answer is, you get that very easy end-to-end lead source to revenue link, very easily able to track your revenue, and everything is in one place. Everything is inside of HubSpot.
I think that the history is interesting here. So when HubSpot was born, it was a marketing automation platform that primarily sat and worked on top of the Salesforce CRM. And as we look at the industry of marketing automation and CRM as a whole, you'll start to see that that line has become blurred between CRM and marketing automation. I don't know if Salesforce threw the first dart with their acquisition of Pardot, but they started moving into the marketing automation space. And I think HubSpot kind of said, oh yeah, we'll show you, we'll build a CRM. And then HubSpot was actually using Salesforce for a very long time. When HubSpot made the conversion to using their own CRM, you really got this explosion of marketing professional and sales professional. Marketing is a traditional automation platform, and sales professional is more of your traditional CRM. But I think it's not just HubSpot that's doing this. You can still plug one on top of the other and you can do a combo. We've done HubSpot on top of a number of other CRMs, but to this question, boy, if you want to make it easy, you have them on both Marketing Pro and Sales Pro. And that doesn't even get us started yet, Adam, with HubSpot's next hubs, which are service.
Yeah, and now Ops Hub to tie everything together, and now they have a CMS, and so you can manage your whole website on there. I would say that there's two very useful tools from a sales professional perspective, which is multiple pipelines. So if you do want to track pipelines, so we work with a lot of software companies, and for example, they say, here's the new pipeline, and then here's a renewal pipeline. So if you want to track those differently, you want to get into Sales Professional. And then the other one is email sequences. So if you want to drop people into a one-to-one communication and have it automatically follow up, unlike drip campaigns, which is separate, it's one-to-one communication, and you can put people in sequences. That's another really useful tool from a sales professional standpoint, why people adopt it.
Hopefully that covers that one. Hey, Steve, what is a marketing contact?
A marketing contact is somebody you're going to send a broadcast email to.
Simple enough.
Simple enough. HubSpot's new
Okay.
pricing model allows you to have contacts in the database that do not cost you anything as long as they are not a marketing contact. So if you do not plan on mass emailing them, they don't count. So
And
that's just the way of segmenting them, right?
And this was a model, Salesforce had this model where you could put as many contacts in the database as you wanted. And so in order to compete, I think with a lot of different CRMs, they went to this model where you can put as many contacts as you want, but the only ones you're communicating to from a marketing perspective over email, outbound email, are deemed marketing contact.
Kate is asking, how do you segment them differently from a marketing contact? What is that setting?
So if it depends on what version. So some people are still grandfathered into the old way of doing it. And there's a tool that you can walk through, that we can help you walk through to get into the new marketing contact model, but it's based on which version you have. So if you've bought HubSpot within probably the last year and a half, you probably are on that marketing contact model with just a field. And then if not, you're on the old version, which you don't have that ability yet. Does
So
that
it's
make sense?
a field that says is a marketing contact, correct?
Mhm,
Correct.
It's marketing contact status.
Yep. Marketing contact status. All right. Can I track visitors to my website? I'm assuming this means in HubSpot.
And yeah, so, well, you can still find their prospects tool, which is based on IP address. So if you go up to the little search bar, you can still find prospects, and you can see what, I guess, IP web addresses are hitting HubSpot, and you can define them there. It was a tool that was used. I don't know why they hit it. We were actually joking about it at Inbound this year. But then there's also a way that once they become cookied and you track them, you can then have visibility to what pages they're visiting on your website. So,
do you know where that report is off the top of your head, Adam? I always thought it was interesting to look at maybe once a week to see what primary domains were hitting our website, so that I could kind of, scope out if a prospect was on the site before we had identified them through the cookie process. But that being said, if somebody is, dialing in from a coffee shop, you're just going to get the ISP. You're not going to get the primary domain. But it still was, somewhat useful, especially when large enterprises are scoping you out.
and
It's
Rob, didn't you go to
target
a?
accounts.
Oh, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
It's under target accounts.
Rob, you went to actually a session at Inbound where they talked about cookie tracking and the future of this, right? Not to put you on the spot, but I obviously, as a marketer, we know this is all changing. So what'd you find?
Oh, sure. Well, in this particular case, this is a first source cookie. So when it comes to the future of cookie tracking, third-party cookies are going to be going away pretty soon. But in this case, this is actually a first-party cookie. So we won't have to worry about that getting killed off quite yet. So.
We've got about 10 minutes left here. Just looking in the chat window, and I'll keep going here. How do I use HubSpot to forecast my sales? Let's start with, and I don't have Sales Pro, I only have Marketing Pro. How to use HubSpot if you only have Marketing Pro?
Well, the only way to forecast your sales then is to forecast out of your deals. And you can create reports by person. You can create reports by deal stage. You can create all kinds of reports based on the type of deals and the stages that they're inside your deal pipeline. That you can do without Sales Professional. If you have Sales Professional, then you can use the forecasting tool, and you can actually set target goals for your salespeople, and you can track sales by individual salespeople, and that can roll up to regions, and you can do a lot more of traditional forecasting if you're using Sales Professional.
All right. Next question. How do I get my team to use the CRM? So how do I get my team to use, I think, Sales Pro in this case for HubSpot?
Beatings.
Heckling. No, I think the important piece is try to incorporate it into your day-to-day. What I mean by that is meetings, sales meetings, presenting, dashboards and reports to leadership so they see the data. Make sure you have leadership on board of actually pushing the team to use the CRM. And this could be everyone from, sales to marketing to anybody that's talking to a contact in your system. So you have that 360 view, but getting leadership on board. The other piece that we always recommend is creating an SLA, and we've got a blog on that, which is a service level agreement between marketing and sales. So you have alignment on who's doing what inside the system. And so there's a process to it, and everybody understands why you're adding these fields, why you're tracking these things, and what happens when you pass these leads over to a sales team. So it's all about, really that process, incorporating it into meetings, and you're, using it and showing visibility to it.
The simplest way is to tie sales commissions to CRM accuracy, quite honestly. So the conversation in the sales meeting goes something like this. Hey, I've got these 3 great deals lined up to close this quarter. And the sales manager, director, whomever stops the conversation, opens the CRM and says, I don't see them in here. They say, oh, but they're real. Yeah, we don't get to talk about them unless they're in the system. And then also, having the reporting come out of there from a commission perspective is by far the most effective. If you can't get there, then there's the whole idea of, as Steve said, heckling, begging, carrots and sticks.
Not documented, it wasn't done.
Yes, if it's not in there, it doesn't exist. So we do have a couple of minutes, I think, left. Are there more questions in there? I think that might be the last.
That's the last question.
That's the last one that we pulled. So everybody who's hanging in there, if you have other questions, feel free to drop those into the chat. If you can go to the next screen, Steve. After this event, we do send out an email that has a link to the recording. Typically, we also draft up a blog about it so that we've got things in writing that are really handy for search traffic. So some tips here if you do webinars as well. But then we'll also send a survey. So this one was one of our more technical ones and a little bit harder to maybe follow in a short amount of time. So we would love your feedback on that survey to let us know what topics you're interested in, if we need to go deeper into HubSpot, if we need to take a step back and go broader We are open to your ideas and suggestions, so please let us know. Adam, Steve, Rob, anything that you would add here? Oh, I've got one. Any tips on integrating company contacts into HubSpot if my team doesn't keep up with updating them?
Ooh,
Who just said ooh?
that was me. That's hard. Ooh, it's hard. It's hard when you can't have your team keep the data clean. That's tricky.
It is. The only thing I might suggest there is doing some kind of reporting or dashboarding on who is using and who isn't using HubSpot, and trying to call that out, and or looking at links where like Steve, you've done that report before where you've done, here are all the companies that have 0 contacts. Marketing doesn't speak to companies, marketing speaks to people, and then kind of getting on who owns the companies that have no contacts. The other thing we like to do is on occasion run a service called Never Bounce, which basically tells us which contact emails are valid or not. But that's just another really easy prompt to get people to clean things up. We've gone so far as to automate tasks to ask people to update company records. Anything else?
And we've been, and Jen and I will laugh, but we've been in a lot of companies that have had, well, let's send gifts to our clients and prospects. And so the sales team needs to go in and update all of the contacts. Marketing can send gifts. It worked for the most part to keep that data clean from that perspective, which is funny, like quarterly sending gifts and communication to a client that sometimes sales is like, I want my client to be included in that. So there's pieces. There's also collecting data from third-party sources like a Zoom info or things like that, where you're actually incorporating some other clean data in the system. And when Jen mentioned Never Bounce, if you're pulling it from another system and you don't know whether or not there's a good email address there, always putting it in Never Bounce so you keep that data clean is very, very important. So that
one's incredibly affordable too, and it's completely worth it from an email score perspective.
And I would say the other thing you can do is when you're using a system where you have marketing and non-marketing contacts, you can look at the contacts that have stopped responding or are bouncing, and you can mark them non-marketing contacts and start clearing people out.
That's a good call out, is just keeping the marketing data clean from, and keeping your list consistent and looking at it to say hard bounces, soft bounces, unsubscribes, all of that pieces. Are they engaging with your content is another really good one to make sure that, you're keeping your data clean.
All right, we are 3 minutes from 3 o'clock. So I'm going to wrap things up. I see that Danielle posted the post-webinar survey in there. I would just like to offer our expertise to everybody on the call. Don't be shy. Most of you know us, or if you don't, we're pretty easy to get to know. Just reach out. There's an info at email that Adam and I monitor, and we'd be happy to do calls one-on-one to cover any specific questions that you may have.
And if you ever want marketing jokes, feel free to reach out. I've got a whole list. So
no one wants those, Adam.
Please somebody reach out so I can say that, yes, somebody reached out.
With that, I want to say thanks to everybody. And as I said before, you'll get a copy of this recording probably early next week. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks, Rob, Steve, and Adam, for your expertise and time.
Thank you all.